Welcome back to our top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis. My name is JC De Guzman. Today is Thursday, March 21, 2019. The top 5 gainers that I'll be talking about are JGS, LTG, RLC, AEV, and CPG. The top 5 losers are FB, ABA, CLI, PHR, and PVC. Let's start with JGS. Before I'll start discussing the chart of JGS, let's check first if it was already discussed in the past. Yes, I did. The most recent one was dated March 18, 2019, and it was also in the top 5 gainers list back then. Let's see if there are some significant changes on the chart of JGS. And yes, there is. JGS closed today at 64.9. The support near 60.60 has been respected for several times within this week. Nonetheless, today's green candlestick was not supported. I repeat, it was not supported with a strong volume because today's volume is below 50% of the 10-day volume average of JGS. Foreign investors registered a small amount of net foreign buying worth 7 million pesos. MACD has not recovered yet. It's still moving below the signal line. JGS also has a moderate risk level with a volatility score of 55%. Meanwhile, even though JGS's price is already moving above the 10-day simple moving average, the 50-day SMA is still hovering the 10-day simple moving average. This alignment will only be corrected. When we say be corrected, I'm referring to the shorter term SMAs moving above the longer term SMAs. That correction will only happen when the price gets closer to the resistance at 69.5. And by the way, support again is 60.6. So now let's take a look at the volume review for JGS. This 64.90, this closing price is also its intraday high. Okay, so the range that got the biggest volume, it's still the closing price itself, 64.9. However, there's another range here that also got the cumulatively speaking, the biggest volume and the highest number of trades, and that's between 63.9 all the way to 64. In other words, should JGS start tomorrow at a price lower than 64.9, I would suggest that you monitor the range between 63.90 to 64 pesos per share. My overall sentiment on JGS is neutral to bullish. I still have some reservations because today's relatively tall green candlestick was not supported with a strong volume. So that's the source of my reservation. That's why it's neutral to bullish. Now, if my suggestion is that perhaps it's way better to just trade the range between 60.62 69.5, at least for now. So the strategy that I recommend for JGS is to trade the range between 60.60 to 69.5, meaning to say you can wait to buy on pullbacks near 60.60, and hopefully if things will continue to go to the northward direction, you then have the option to lock in your gains at 69.5. So there you go for JGS. Okay, now let's move on to LTG, LT Group Incorporated. LTG closed today at 17.30. It's now much closer to its resistance at 17.4 than to its support at 14.6. Okay, today's green candlestick was supported with good volume that's above its 10-day volume average, MACD continues its ascent above the signal line, and the foreign investors registered a net foreign buying worth 17 million pesos today. The price remains above the signal line, but the 200-day SMA is still moving above the shorter term moving averages. This alignment of moving averages can only be corrected in favor of the bulls once the price crosses above the next resistance at 20.10 or 20 pesos per share. Okay, by that time, the alignment would be the 10 SMA first, followed by the 50 SMA, then followed by the blue line, which is the 200-day SMA. Okay. In the medium term, I would say that LTG is also bullish in the medium term. It's also the same for the long term, but this is not yet the perfect bullish sentiment on a long-term scale because again, the 200-day SMA is still moving above the 10-day simple moving average. Now, talking about the range that got the biggest volume, let's find out through the volume review. LTG closed today at 17.30. Let's remember that number. That number is also closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low. But the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is between 7.20 to 17.30. 17.20 to 17.30. So remember that range. My overall sentiment on LTG is bullish. Okay, but I do not discount the probability of the price, seeing the price bouncing away from 17.40 because that happened also in the past, somewhere like in December 2018. Okay, but if tomorrow we see the price above, let's say at 17.50 and the volume is also quite good, meaning to say there's a support coming from the buyers to buy the stock at a higher price, at a price higher than 17.40, then we may then have to disregard the previous sentiment of the previous forecast of seeing the price bouncing away from 17.40, meaning to say, in other words, if tomorrow we see the price registering a green candlestick and we see a relatively strong volume, then there's a probability for the price to continue its ascent higher than the resistance at 17.40. So that's my overall sentiment for LTG. I'm bullish. My recommendation is to monitor the price near 17.40 tomorrow, first thing in the morning. If it touches 17.50 with a relatively good volume, strong volume in favor of the bulls, then you may want to do a test buy. A test buy at what price? Of course, you will have to reevaluate the price volume distribution and catch that range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. Okay, if you're using First Metrosec Pro, you can easily see that on the volume review tab. If you'd like me to post an update, you can always request your price volume distribution analysis. You can request that in our private clients forum. Okay, so that's it for LTG. Now let's take a look at RLC. Robinson's Land Corporation is it closed today at 24.45. The moving averages are aligned in a perfect bullish position. It's also good to see that the price of RLC is above the 10-day moving average. Today's green candlestick was also supported with a strong bullish volume, which is above the 10-day volume average. And it's also good to see MACD supporting the previous bullish indicators as it continues to move above the 10-day the signal line rather. RLC has a volatility score of 34%, and that gives the stock a low risk level. Foreign investors, meanwhile, registered a net foreign buying worth 25 million pesos today. For 2019 year to date, RLC is on a net foreign buying status. Support is at 21.6. Resistance is at, let me zoom this in so you can see that historical resistance at 26.2. 26.2. Okay, now let's take a look at the volume review. Let's remember the closing price of 24.45. The range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is between 24.05 all the way to 24.45. I repeat, 24.05 to 24.45. By the way, 24.45 is also the intraday high of the stock. Now let's move on to the overall sentiment. My overall sentiment on RLC is bullish, but you may want to lock in some profits once the price inches closer to the resistance at 26.2 or 26 pesos. Historically speaking, it was tested several times last 2017, and it bounced away from the resistance during that year. So that might happen again. But if you're following a trailing stop loss, you have two options. It's either you only sell once your trailing stop loss is hit, or you sell once a resistance level is achieved or is broken out. And how do you sell? Do you sell at once or you sell in tranches? It's actually up to you. But if you would like to make that decision to be data driven, here's how I would process it. If I see a weakening appetite to buy the stock at a higher price, then I might consider selling everything at once, selling all shares at once. But if I see that it seems that buyers are not yet exhausted in terms of buying the price the stock at a higher price, then I might decide to just sell maybe one or two tranches. Maybe I would divide my entire shares for that stock into, depending on the size of my capital allocation, of course, I might divide it by 3 or 2 and then sell one or two tranches once the resistance is hit or once my trailing stop loss is hit. Okay, so that's how I would process that's my trade strategy for RLC. Now let's move on to AEV, Aboitiz. I think I already talked about AEV in the past as well, just yesterday. But yesterday it was in the top 5 losers list. Today it's in the top 5 gainers. AEV closed today at 58.5. Resistance remains at 67.8. Support is at 56.2. Apparently, there's this small, let's say quote unquote small resistance near. Okay, this is the wrong indicator. Let me change that one. There's a imaginable resistance there near 58.9. So in my opinion, I think we need to see AEV registering a lot bigger volume than what we've seen in the past 4 trading days, so that it can cross above 58.9 with conviction. When I say with conviction, that means with support coming from the volume, because if it should it cross above 58.9 with a volume that's below the 10-day volume average, then we might just see AEV coming back and forth between 56.2 to 58.9, a sideways movement. That's why the ascent in the price of AEV must be supported with a volume. Of course, it has to be in favor of the bulls above its 10-day volume average. Okay, so there you go. And by the way, the alignment of the moving averages are not yet in favor of the perfect bullish in a perfect bullish position. For us to see the alignment to be corrected in favor of a perfect bullish sentiment for AEV, I think the price must close above, preferably above 65.7. 65.7. Okay, there's a lot of work to do for AEV to achieve that level. And foreign investors, meanwhile, registered a net foreign buying worth 21.21 million pesos. MACD is at the brink of, it's actually about to cross above the signal line. Okay, I've zoomed in the chart so you can see that as well. It's now in a bullish divergence. Okay, when we say divergence, they're about to uh, meet at a certain intersection. They're about to move into two separate directions. That's divergence. Okay, they are about just about. It's not yet a bullish divergence in effect yet, but they are just about to register a bullish divergence with each other. I'm referring to the signal line and the MACD. AEV has a low risk level because of its volatility score of 46%. Okay, year to date, on a year to date basis, 2019, AEV is on presumably, I think it's still more or less a net foreign buying. It's really quite tough to get an estimate because these bars pointing to the south are quite tall as well, but there's a lot more bars pointing to the north than to the south. So it's quite tough to say if it's a net foreign buying or net foreign selling. Maybe it's a plus or minus net foreign selling. I don't know, but that's my estimate. It shouldn't be quite far. It shouldn't be too far from the zero intersection point. Okay, now let's move on to the range that got the biggest volume. The closing price is 58.5. It's a lot closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low. So the range that got the biggest volume today is between 58.9 all the way to 59. Okay, 58.9 to 59. But that's above the closing price of 58.5. We have to remember that 58.5, the closing price, got 35% of today's volume and 84 trades. That's not the highest number of trades, by the way. The price points that got the biggest number of trades was the range that I mentioned before, talking about 58.5, and that's between 58.9 to 59 pesos per share. So in other words, if and only if AEV starts tomorrow at a price higher than 58.5, then you may want to monitor the price between 58.9 to 59, as that range might just appear again as one of the favorites of traders of AEV. Okay, my overall sentiment on AEV is neutral to bullish. Why do I still have some reservations? Because I do not want to discount the probability of the price bouncing away from 58.9 once it touches that level. Just like what happened last week, all the way through this week. So that's it. Now my suggestion is that you wait for some pullbacks, especially if you are a relatively new trader. Wait for some pullbacks near 56.2. Now, if the price breaks out above 58.9 with conviction, meaning with the volume above the 10-day volume average, then you may want then to consider doing a test buy. Test buy at what price? At what price? Again, you should already know the answer by now. You have to reevaluate the price volume review so you can catch the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades, just like what we did on AEV a few seconds ago. Okay, so let's talk about CPG. Century Properties Group closed today at 0.56, 1 centavo higher than the resistance at 0.55, which is now acting as its new support level. The previous support prior to this breakout was 0.46. Let's zoom this in so we can see the next resistance at 0.68. 0.68. Today's green candlestick was supported with A high volume, that's, I think this is about 300% higher than its 10-day volume average. Because of the ascent in price with volume, MACD continues to soar higher than the position of its signal line. CPG still has a moderate risk level. It has a volatility score of 54 or 55%. The alignment, it is noteworthy that the alignment of the moving averages of CPG are or is in a perfect bullish alignment because the shorter term ones are all above the longer term moving averages. I cannot say that 0.55 is a really strong resistance because it was easily broken out in the past. So again, if CPG continues with a higher volume, or if not the same volume as today, if it will continue this kind of volume, and then it might just continue its direction above 0.56 or 0.55. The range that got the biggest volume is between 0.54 all the way to 0.56. 0.54 to 0.56. 0.56 is the intraday high and the closing price. Net foreign trade is a very insignificant amount of 59,000 pesos net foreign selling. Okay, my overall sentiment on CPG is bullish, but I'd like to remind you still to monitor the price tomorrow near 0.55 because it's not impossible for the price to decline once if and when the CPG traders think that CPG is already quite expensive at this level. They might consider doing some profit taking tomorrow near 0.55. But if they think that CPG is still not that expensive at this level, they might push it higher, maybe above 0.60. So just monitor, especially the price volume review of CPG, because at a glance you would see if there's still a demand to buy the stock at a higher price, or they are already preparing to lock in some gains. Okay, so that's it for the top 5 gainers for today. Now let's begin with the first top loser, beginning with San Miguel Food and Beverage, FB. Okay, FB closed today at 101.40. I think I already talked about FBs too many times in the past. Oh yes, I did. The last time I talked about FB it was March 14, and it was also the number one loser in the list according to market value or total turnover value. Okay, going back to the chart, FB closed at 101.4. Support is at 98.60. Resistance is at, okay, this is now the resistance, 109.2. Okay, well actually there's a midterm resistance at 104. Okay, so support is at 98.6, midterm resistance is at 104. A resistance higher than 104 is at 109.2. Meanwhile, today's descent in price did not really come with a big volume. I think it's less than 50% of the 10-day volume average of FB. When I see a very slim volume, for me that means the color of the current candlestick, of the prevailing candlestick, might not continue. In other words, in English, okay, in English, it's possible for the downtrend to not to go beyond 98.6 because there's no appetite, there's no demand to go all in selling out some shares of FB. If there was, then we should be seeing a very tall red volume bar right now, but we're not seeing that. Meaning to say, FB traders or holders are not convinced that there's something too alarming for them to initiate a massive selling activity on FB. Okay, I hope you got that. Nonetheless, FB is already bearish in the short term as it is moving up below the 10-day simple moving average. Foreign investors registered a net foreign selling worth 11 million pesos. MACD continues its downtrend movement, and the volatility score is at 35%, which gives FB a low risk level. Now let's take a look at the volume review. The closing price of 101.4 is closer, not really closer, but the exact intraday low itself, 101.4. My recommendation is to monitor the price below 101.4, if possible near 101, 100 to 101. But there are two price points here that got about 73% of today's volume, and that's between 102.5 and 102.60. 102.50 to 102.60. That range got 73% of today's volume. But instead of monitoring those two price points tomorrow, I would still recommend that you monitor FB below 101. Okay, my overall sentiment remains bearish on FB. Okay, so I would prefer monitoring it below 101. Ideally speaking, should be near 98.6. When that happens, I would love to reevaluate the situation if there are some signals for an early entry on FB. But for now, it's a bearish sentiment. Don't do anything except from monitoring. Wait near 98.60, the ideal waiting zone. Okay, for FB, but not for all stocks. Okay, so that's it for FB. Now let's talk about ABA. I think I have not discussed, or I think I did, but let me see here. Let's double check. Oh yeah, I did just yesterday. It was also in the top losers list yesterday. Let's see what happened today. So ABA or Abacor Capital Holdings closed at 0.66, 2 centavo shy from, or 2 centavo below yesterday's closing, and today's red candlestick did not come with a heavy volume, as today's volume is below the 10-day volume average. But even if it will equal to yesterday's volume, I don't think that's convincing enough to make a significant change or change in direction of the price of ABA. So this stock is already bearish, not only in the short term but also in the medium term scale, as it is now moving below the 50-day simple moving average. MACD continues its trajectory to the southward direction. I don't see any formation of any bullish divergence yet, not even a bullish convergence with MACD. It still has a moderate risk level because of its volatility score of 53%. Foreign investors, meanwhile, registered not worthy to mention worth of net foreign buying. It's amounting to 87,000 pesos worth of net foreign buying. So let's not factor that in. It's already in a significant level. Now let's take a look at the volume review for ABA. Remember that the closing price of 0.66 is closer to the intraday low of 0.65. And the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is between 0.66 and 0.67. I would still suggest, my overall sentiment is bearish, and my suggestion is that you wait for ABA to hit the support near 0.61, if possible 0.60. When that happens, reevaluate the situation and see if there are signs of reversal based on volume, not just on the price, based on volume, number one. Okay, so for now it's a bearish sentiment. do nothing except for monitoring this one. You can add it in your watch list if you're really interested. Then let's reevaluate the scenario once it hits or touches 0.61. Okay, moving on to CLI. Cebu Land Masters Incorporated closed today at 4.26, still below the resistance at 4.34. Support is at 3.96. I'm not impressed by the alignment of the moving averages of CLI. CLI is now moving in the short-term time periods, both in the short-term and long-term scale. And when will the moving averages correct their alignments in favor of the bulls? I think that will only happen when the price closes above, at least above 4.44. Above 4.44. Ideally should be near 4.5 or 4.6. Okay. Today's red candlestick is not that much as far as volume is concerned because it's still below its 10-day volume average. So I don't think CLI will CLI traders will I don't think they got excited with that kind of low volume today. That's why the price just just moved sideways today. MACD remains while it's still above the signal line, it's already trading or trending to the southward direction. So this is now a bearish divergence, or bearish convergence rather. Okay, it's a bearish convergence. Once the MACD crosses below the signal line and the direction, if the direction of the MACD line continues to the southward direction, then we call that as a bearish divergence. It's in a bearish position, but the two lines are moving in two opposite directions. Divergence. Okay, they diverge. Okay. CLI has a low risk level. Is it? Yeah, it's a low risk level because of its historical volatility score of 29%. Foreign investors registered, not even worthy to mention, 170,000 pesos worth of net foreign selling. Okay, now let's take a look at the volume review. 4.26, that's the closing price, and it's closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low. So the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is almost equal to all the price points that were printed today. So it's between 4.20 to 4.29. it almost covered all the way to 4.29, huh? Okay, again, it's 4.20 to 4.28. Okay, so even though my advice, my overall sentiment for CLI remains bearish, I would suggest that you monitor the price all the way here. Let me plot this line. Here, near 4.17. Once it kisses the line at 4.17, reevaluate the price volume review immediately. If there are signs of reversal, you may want to position early by doing some test buying near 4.17 or 4.20. But if you see zero signs of reversal, I suggest that you wait all the way to 3.96 or 4 pesos per share. Okay, that's my sentiment and advice for CLI. Okay, next one is PHR. I think this is the first time that I'm going to cover PHR. Let me confirm that. Yes, today's the first time. PHR PH Resorts Group Holdings Incorporated closed today at 4.63. It continues to break down below the previous support, which is now the resistance at 4.93. The newest support is at 4.02 or 4.0. Today's volume is above the 10-day volume average, but I don't think that this This is an illiquid company, illiquid stock. Okay, as early as now, we don't have to. I don't have to discuss my overall sentiment, but as early as now, well, unless we see some changes in its daily volume, I would say that you stay away from PHR. It's quite tough to make some good money on this kind of an illiquid stock. Okay, MACD is bearish. All right, so let's take a look at the volume review tab. Closing price is 4.63. The volume that got the biggest, the price that got the biggest volume is at 4.63 as well. Well, anyway, let's not add PHR in our watch list. There are other better stocks with good volume than PHR. Okay, so last for tonight is PBC, Philippine Bank of Communications. It closed today at 21.5. This is another illiquid stock. Okay, 21.5. Support is at 23.4. No, resistance is at 23.4. Support is at 19.95. I drew this ascending horizontal line here. Okay, this ascending horizontal line. Well, it doesn't look horizontal line, but a diagonal line rather. This now acts as the support, an inclined support level of PBC, and this is the one is now a declining resistance level as well. This diagonal line here, or inclined line. Okay, but because of the illiquidity of the stock, I don't think it makes sense to talk about the other indicators of PBC, because no matter how much interpretation I'm going to give you on PBC, if it's illiquid, then it's illiquid. It's hard to make money, and the only purpose why we're talking about these, why I'm giving you an analysis like this, is for you to make some money. So let's skip the other parts, the other indicators, and let's just monitor or add in our watch list the other stocks that I talked about that have no liquidity issues. When I say liquidity, guys, for girls and guys, for the new subscribers and new investors or new traders, when I say liquidity, I'm referring to the volume. Okay, we can barely see the volume bar without zooming out or zooming in on the chart. Okay, so this is an illiquid company that it's tough to make money from this company unless there's a change in volume. Okay, so I think I've already covered the 10 stocks in our list for tonight, Thursday, March 21. Okay, by the way, I'd like to sneak into this video the update in the improved version of our investment guide for long-term investing. Okay, so I have covered all 30 stocks, 30 index stocks. Previously, I only covered about 15, and not all of them are index stocks. I would really recommend, please read this link here so that you will understand the idea, the logic behind this improved version of our investment guide for long-term investing. Okay, please read this one so you can understand. It's the only way. Okay, before posting questions about this change, please make sure that you have read this article from the first letter to the last punctuation mark. Okay, just to make sure that you've read everything. And lastly, I'd like to invite you to attend my seminar in Makati on May 4, 2019. This is the first time that I'm going to discuss in person the complete blueprint of my evergreen strategy to profit in the stock market. So for 4 hours, I will be speaking with 30 people. Why 30 people? Why not 50? Because I'd like to limit my seminars into as few people as possible so that I can focus to every participant so that I can answer everyone's questions. I don't want to step out of the room with lots of unanswered questions from the audience, and I'd like this to be a workshop, not just a seminar. Okay, I think I would like to dedicate about an hour of those 4 hours should be dedicated on question and answer. Okay, and one-on-one conversations as well. So first come, first serve. Make sure that you buy your ticket as soon as you can, because once the 30 slots have been taken, then we cannot accommodate new new participants anymore for the first batch. And I'm not sure if the second batch can be done within this year because I'm fully packed already for the entire year. My team has not just put in the other seminars until December. So buy your tickets right away. Go to equalist.com/seminars. Okay, so if you have some questions about this video, feel free to post them inside our private clients forum. Again, my name is JZ De Guzman. I wish that you would make some profits tomorrow, Friday. Have a good day.